Hello. Welcome to Coffee Chats. I don't know if that's what I'm going to call them because I have tea. I got some chai tea. And yeah, this is the second coffee chat, heart to heart. We're workshopping it. But yeah, I just wanted to answer sitting down, having some tea or coffee, and talking to you about questions that I get asked. And I get asked a lot of questions. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Cunningham. I am a relationship expert. I have been working in the field of gender, sexuality, relationships, politics, even since 2008. I have degrees, certifications, trainings that have got me here. I chose to go the relationship coach route rather than the relationship therapist route. And I think that's a story for another time. And I looked on answerthepublic.com just to see, and I just typed in polyamory. And 'cause that's one of the topics that I get asked about the most. So I just typed in polyamory on Ask the Public, and one of the questions that came up is, how does polyamory work? And I chose that question. A lot of questions came up, but I chose that question because I think for myself, like, that's one of the number one questions that I get asked about polyamory, especially from people who are not polyamorous or people who are curious about polyamory. Because obviously, if you are polyamorous and you're in polyamorous relationships, you have an idea about how it works. But yeah, for people who are curious or don't know, then that's a question that I get asked a lot. And it's interesting, before I answer that question, one of the reasons why I haven't really answered that question on my platforms is because generally I make content for queer people and for polyamorous people, and those are two separate things. There's a Venn diagram, although that is a big debate whether polyamorous people are queer or not. I guess I made my stance clear in saying it that way. But when I say queer people and polyamorous people, I'm not necessarily talking about the same group of people, although there are people like me who are both queer and polyamorous. So I generally make content for people who are queer and or polyamorous. And so I'm not necessarily answering the question to the people I'm making content for, how it works because they're already in it. I'm more answering the questions of what are the challenges that come up for them specifically. So those are usually the videos and content that I make. But I chose that question today because I do get asked that a lot. And the other reason that I make content is because I like having content that the people who I am serving, the people who I'm making content for, can use what I'm saying or use the content that I'm making as a jumping off point. As like okay, listen to this podcast when I was just making my podcast in the past. Listen to this podcast and then we can talk about it. We can talk about what comes up and what we agree with and what we don't agree with and what works about that and what doesn't work about that and how I feel the same way or how I feel differently. It's just having this sort of medium is a really great way to spark conversation when you don't really know where to start with the people in your life. So if you are someone who is polyamorous and you don't know necessarily how to answer that question, like how does polyamory work, to someone who is not polyamorous or someone who's in your life who's curious about that, then this video might be for you as well. And if you are the curious person or the person who doesn't know anything about polyamory and now you're watching this video, thank you. Thank you for your curiosity. Thank you for being here. And yeah, the other thing that I'll say right before I jump into my spiel about how polyamory works is that I am not really attached to whether you agree with me or whether you disagree with me. I'm not really attached to whether or not you like my answer or not. That's not really my goal here. There's a lot of different ways in which polyamory works, and that's why I've been making content for years and years, and that's why other people like myself have been making content for years and years. There is not one answer to this question, and so I anticipate that people will not agree with me, And I also anticipate that a lot of people will agree with me on what I have to say. And that is not the point. That would be one way to listen to me, would be from this point of view of, do I agree with this or do I not agree with this? What would be more useful for you is if you listened to what I'm about to share from the point of view of, this is one way that polyamory works. And to ask yourself the question, what are some other ways that polyamory works? And then that question will lead you to more resources. The other thing inside of that too is that how I'm going to answer it today, I know that it's not even all of everything that I feel and know either. All of everything that I feel and know hasn't even been captured in content over these 6 years I've been making content. There are so many different ways that polyamory can look and can work that I have never even talked about on the internet before. So to think of this video as, this is the only thing that I know about it, or this is the only thing to agree with or to disagree with, would be to look at this from a very small-minded point of view, from a very narrow point of view. Consider and listen to what I'm about to say from this is a jumping off point. This is the spark. This is the way that I can start thinking about it. What other questions can I ask to go from here? Would be a far more productive way to use this bit of content today. With all of that being said, how does polyamory work? Maybe some of you haven't even gotten to this point in the video because I'm just so long-winded. It's okay. It's coffee talk. It's coffee chats. We're chatting. So how does polyamory work? At its core, polyamory is many loves. Poly means many. Amory means loves. Many loves. So if someone is polyamorous, then they have many loves. Now, let's break that down a little bit more, because what many is for one person might be few for another, right? Many for one person might be 2, where for someone else it might be 7. And loves, let's break that word down a little bit. Now, I know from the work that I do that sometimes when people hear the word love, they immediately associate sex with love. And that is not necessarily what we're talking about. And some people associate relationships with love. And that's a little bit more in the ballpark, polyamory, for these purposes, right? But fundamentally, I want to not disassociate sex and romance from love, but make them their own things. So sex is in one bubble over here, romantic relationships are in one bubble right here, and love is in this bubble down here, okay? So you can have sex without love. You can have romantic relationships without love, but you can also have them with it. You can have sex and love together. You can have romantic relationships and love together. You can have all 3 together, right? So fundamentally, I think that love is more of an experience, a state, an emotion, a way of being. It is something that we can and do possess as humans, that we can express in different ways, like a state being like a state of calm, right? That's what I mean by state. As being in a state or being in a mood, a little bit different, but similar. And an experience, you can experience love as well. And you can also have the emotion of love. You can also have it as a way of being, like a way that you navigate the world lovingly, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say love. And so bringing it back to polyamory, many loves, what we're really talking about inside of the practice of polyamory, the general understanding of polyamory is actually more inside of that loving relationship bubble, that Venn diagram, romantic relationships and love. And for each individual relationship, sometimes that can be a sexual relationship, but sometimes it's not. And there are some people who include platonic relationships or friendships inside of polyamory as well. So there are these moving parts, right? So we have romantic, platonic, sexual, we have love right here. And in all of our many amories, there can be different combinations of those things within different partnerships. So, using myself as an example, right now I have one romantic partner. That hasn't always been the case. There have been times in my life where I have had multiple romantic partners. I don't think that I've ever exceeded more than 4 romantic partners. But for right now, I have one romantic partner, and that includes love, and that also includes sex, and it also includes friendship. There is that level of our relationship where we're also friends. And I also have 2 platonic life partners. And with one of those platonic life partners, it's really just the platonic relationship and the love that we have for one another, and just knowing that we're always here for one another. And with one of the platonic life partnerships that I have, sometimes that involves sex, but it's not an expectation, or I guess it's normal in our relationship, but it's not, I don't think either of us would characterize it as a sexual relationship because it is so infrequent. But sometimes we have sex. And that's great. That's great for both of us, but it's not an expectation of our relationship. If we were to never ever have sex again, we wouldn't lose the love that we have for one another. We wouldn't lose the relationship that we have. And in that understanding of polyamory, poly meaning many, amory meaning love, breaking down what love can look like. And this is such like a 101, 105, like 110 on what love is. And I'm going to be spending the rest of my life talking about love and studying love. And so I'll make lots and lots more videos about this particular subject and all of this. But that's like the breakdown of that. And so how it works is that when you're polyamorous, you may be someone who is polyamorous, but you don't have a primary partnership. And you may be someone who's polyamorous who does have a primary partnership. So for someone who does have a primary partnership, maybe that looks like you're married. And inside of this marriage, you originally were monogamous, and now you have opened up your relationship to be polyamorous. And so as you navigate that together, you may date people separately. So one partner dates people separately and the other partner dates people separately. And you may date people together, or you may do both. But the, again, essence of it is that you are looking for a relationship. You are looking for intimacy, connection, commitment. And I want to pause there and like kind of tangent commitment for a second, because commitment inside of our current culture and understanding has been collapsed with monogamy. I'll just put it that way. Where monogamy is you're only with one person at a time. And so if you are committed, then you are only with one person at a time. Where polyamory, commitment does not mean one at a time. Commitment means something closer to devotion. Although people who are less spiritual might not resonate with the word devotion, and so commitment would be a more appropriate term for those people. But that you are saying to another person, I'm here for you. I am with you. We are doing this together. And you create agreements inside of that. And that's a really big thing in polyamory is creating agreements in each relationship and also in your relationship structure as a whole. And your relationship structure as a whole might be a polycule, which is the constellation of relationships that exist within your dynamic. So if you have that primary partnership, let's again pretend that you're married and you have two other partners and your spouse has one other partner, and then those partners might have more partners, and then that one partner might have other partners as well. And so that creates your polycule, your constellation. I call it a constellation. I prefer saying my constellation rather than my polycule, but that's just me. And I've heard other people use the term constellation as well, but the more common term is polycule, actually. So within each of those relationships, you can have different levels of commitment, and then you have agreements inside of what that commitment looks like for that particular relationship. And the best case scenario is that it is in harmony with your other relationships and other agreements that you have. So that is generally how it works. There's a lot of different forms of polyamory over the past 10 years, and particularly over the past 5 years for sure. There has been a lot of different terms that have been created to describe the different types of polyamorous structures. And I've actually been making a terms playlist on my channel, so you can go and check that out. I am nowhere near finished. At the making of this video, I'm nowhere near finished. If you're watching this video maybe like a year from now, I probably have lots more terms for you. But I think at the making of this video, I only have 5 on there right now. And there's so many different terms for the types of structures or how people feel or how people navigate or what works for people inside of polyamory. So I hope that what you are gathering from what I'm saying is that the general idea of polyamory and the theory of polyamory is one thing, and then how people practice that and what it looks like in real life is so different for every single person. And I think that's really beautiful. That's one of the things that I really love about polyamory. When I was a little kid, I remember there was like when I started learning more of the ways in which we are supposed to behave relationally and socially didn't always make a lot of sense to me. It felt like a lot of red tape to me. If you're friends with this person, but you're dating this person, then you can't be friends with this other person. And I felt this way as like a little kid. I was like, that makes zero sense. Why, if you love someone or you like someone or you have an affinity for someone, why wouldn't you be able to just express that to them? That seems like heartbreaking to me. Like heartbreaking to me that you could like someone, you could love someone, you could have affinity for someone, and then because you're in this relationship, you can't tell this person that they're awesome? What? No, absolutely. Or not even tell them that they're awesome, but maybe you can't even hang out with them at all. I remember when I was in high school and I had a high school sweetheart and that was great and he's a great human being. And I had a lot of guy friends in high school and I was dating, I dated guys up until I was 29 and I'm 36 at the making of this video. In the past several years, I've come out as a lesbian, but when I was dating guys, like that's a thing. Like that's a thing with guys. Most guys are very weird about you having guy friends. And I thought that was stupid, to be honest. Here we go. Coffee chat. We're not in session right now. We're at the coffee shop. But I think that that is so dumb that you could have a platonic feeling for someone And then because of their gender and because of your partner's gender, you can't be friends with that person. Like that makes no sense. That makes zero sense. And so I didn't adhere to that, which did cause issues in my relationships. But it was also I didn't mind that it was causing issues because I felt very secure in the fact that it should be okay for me to have a friendship with someone of the same gender of my partner. Like, I'm not cheating. I am literally just going and hanging out with someone who I consider a friend. And some of those friends I even had before I started dating this person. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to give up my friends because now I'm dating someone? No sense. Zero sense. And so when I came out as polyamorous, I was like, wow, this is so liberating that I have the opportunity. I can now cut through all of that red tape. I can really be like, I like this person this way. I like this person this way. I like this person this way. And I can express and be authentic with my love with every single person in my life. This is my dream. This is my dream. This is my dream scenario. And like polyamory just makes more sense to me. It has me be able to express the love that I have for people in the way that I feel it. And isn't that such a beautiful thing in life that we could aspire to? That we could aspire to be able to express our love when our love arises. That's beautiful. That is beautiful, and you will never ever be able to convince me that's not beautiful. There's my coffee talk for how polyamory works. I hope that you enjoy this. Please let me know in the comments what came up for you in this video. I would love to hear your experience and your questions that you might have for me. And again, my name is Elizabeth Cunningham. I am a relationship expert and I help people in relationships. So if you are going through transition, if you're curious about something but you don't know what to do, if you're going through a challenge, if you're going through whatever it is that you feel stuck in, I would love to help you with that. That's exactly what I do. So please click on the link in the description of this video if that's something that you want to talk to me about, because it's something that I would like to talk to you about. Okay? All right. I love you so much, and we will see you in the next video.